Hey everybody, been a while, long man, what? Hey everybody, it's Larry, One Man Garage. Poor old Starchy's been sitting here since it spilled her guts out the front seal of the transmission a while back on March 16th. So, I just hadn't felt like messing with it. But it needs to be fixed. It's a good driving car, needs to be working. Maybe it's just a clogged vent that Dirt Dauber's got. This transmission's never been out of the car since it was built. So there's that. But yeah, it shouldn't be that hard to get out. It's like the easiest thing to work on. The bell housing bolt clearance is better than a GTO or Firebird. I don't know if you can tell, but there's more of a gap. You can get your hand in there, and the exhaust actually routes off to the right side. So really I just gotta get the drive shaft out, and we'll go from there and get it jacked up. I got one jack stand on it, and we'll continue in a bit. Hey everybody, been a while, long man, what? Hi. Got the jack, holding that up, two stands in the front. See, this weird dual exhaust was made of tying into like factory single exhaust, so it's all swept over from one side. But that's actually going to be nice because put the jack under the pan and pull the cross member and lay it straight down. The exhaust for once on one car won't be in the way. So yeah, I'll take that. You betcha I will. Yeah, I got the U-bolts with the 1/2-inch wrench off in the back. Drive shaft's you can see that. Oh yeah, this transmission's just caked. She's old, leaky, dirty. Just had the governor replaced. Had a little shift kit tweak and been flushed out with a couple filters, but this thing was still leaking, and like the shifter selector seal can't be replaced from the outside. From what I gather, I don't know, it's different than the later ones. This being an early 400, it like I said, you fix stuff like normal speedometer leaks and pan and dipstick stuff, but it still had other leaks before anyway. So I don't know, this thing has to come out and get power washed, and it'll probably end up getting totally rebuilt anyway. Well, this is how this is going. I was just trying to unplug the wire for the passing gear that wasn't even plugged in on the other end, and the plastic inside part just fell out with it and dumped fluid. Made a mess before I even got started. Great. I always end up just having the the full bath in the burnt old fluid. It's my least favorite scent or lotion, I can tell you that. Well, took a 2-day break because that mess when that thing came out and spilled everywhere for the downshift, so I was just like, well, I'll let that soak in the concrete and get some fresh cardboard out, and maybe I'll go ahead and get the torque converter bolts out, and I'll need to do the hard lines for the cooler. And I already got the cross member bolts out the other day. They're carriage bolt style from the bottom up, which is kind of cool. You don't see that on the A or F body cars, but the old B body's got a neat feature there. Maybe because they know that it's so low. If it had the stock 14s, this thing, I don't know, I think they used to scrape a lot, but maybe that's why they were that way, so they didn't stick out. I don't know. But yeah. And then we got a 350 over here that's going to Blake's Muscle Cars for a customer. Needed a replacement 350 Pontiac block. That's a 68 block to replace a 72 for a Le Mans build he's doing. So come and get it, Darren. It's all yours. I'm gonna cut this off while I mess with those 3 bolts. Oh, got those 3 bolts out with an 11/16 box end. Those are 3/8/16 thread, but the Pontiacs used a big 11/16 head, original bolts. Those are sometimes challenging when you're pulling apart really old stuff, and they'll round off on you. So if you got a chance to start with a 6-point instead of a 12-point connection, you should do that. Maybe even position the flex plate so you can use a 6-point socket, along the edge of the oil pan to jam it or something. Just keep it square, because those strip out on old cars, trying to get apart when they're rusty. And then I'm just gonna get this other bolts out the bell housing, and I guess the cooler lines, will drop it a little bit before we do the cooler lines so we can get more wrench action. I do need to pull the little nut off the stud from the transmount. Actually, I had put a new correct hard to find transmount on it. I bought it Rock Auto that was the either discontinued or hard to find, little diagonal kind of weird mount for these B-body 65-70 Pontiacs. So anyway, the rest looks old, but the mount is good. Alright, well this turns freely. I can't remember if I left the stock 1600 RPM converter 13-inch. I think so, because it looks massive. So I'll probably put a 12-inch 350 converter in here. So maybe we can do better than a 10.3 in the 1/8 mile the next time we run this old tuna boat. Because when you go from a 389 at 10-to-1 compression down to a 8.0-ish compression with a head swap, you're gonna lose a lot of torque. And granted, the mod was to make it run on pump gas 87 octane regular, and it does that very well. So it wasn't a speed trick, it was just more of a let's just drive an old car without any problems trick. Anyway, I'll get back on these bolts on this old greasy baby. Got the bolts out on the driver's side on the bell housing. All I lack is the top bolt on this side. Got the vacuum modulator hose off. It's vacuum line, but I'm using hose with a clamp because we don't like those falling off. Got me a Wix filter on there. I didn't write the date on it, but that's okay. I'm just lazy. So I'll probably get the top bolt from at the top, because this side has a bunch of crap in the way to rotate the wrench. So I'm gonna climb up top and do some fat boy planking. Well, I got that hulking cross member out and unscrewed the speedo cable. Got it lowered a little bit. I gotta try to do those cooling lines right there, and that's really all that'll hold it. I'll scoot the jack around a little bit, maybe it won't fall, but yeah, it's coming along pretty easy really. I just don't like wallering in this transmission fluid. I hate it kind of a lot. Well, see this tubing cutter? Yeah, that's right. I just cut them babies off where I could reach them easy, because this crap's like rusty and seized up there, and could have got the torch out and risk a fire and try to get it hot, but then the other end's already cut off because they get rusty and messed up anyway. So on 55-year-old 56-year-old cars, you might not try to save everything. Some of this carbon steel crap should be replaced. Of course, I'll probably just use a splash rubber hose and it'll fail, within a year or two, but whatever works for the time being. Let's see if I can set this so y'all could see what I'm doing. See if this will come down. It's kind of hanging on the bell housing a little bit. There we go. Cleared the exhaust, tail housing. We're hoping to find the vent clogged, because that would contribute to blowing out the front seal greatly. Because really this thing was working perfectly, it only has 56,000 miles. It just needs some external seals replaced if we can figure out if that's what blew the front seal. So she is more or less down. I'm going to turn this off and try to get the jack yanked out from under and drag it out the side of the car. Just jack the car up enough to get the bell housing to clear the frame behind the front tire. Love it when a plan comes together. For the record, I am not seeing this vent clogged. See if you can see that. And the end of that is open, so that's sort of a bummer. So it may be something with the pump, like the bushing walked. I think that's what they say. Sometimes the bushing comes loose from the torque converter bushing at the front pump. Maybe that's what's messed up. We shall see. I got the converter off. The seal is intact. Obviously the fluid may have just gushed around it. So I mean, we don't know what we're gonna do. We, me, whoever's involved. By the way, your early Turbo 400s that are the better original ones have the metal tube on the vent versus plastic later ones, and actually has 8 bolts for the pump instead of 6. So that's a thing. If you have a chance to build I guess a good case, you want the early case if possible. But I know the later model transmissions have like rollerized sprags and stuff like that are upgrades, so you can put later model guts in the early one. Something like that. I'm not a transmission guy, I just do like seals and shift kits and stuff. That's about the extent. Anyway, I guess this will wrap it up. All it's going to do is get it dropped off and get it out, and we'll figure it out from there. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.